This is going to present or whatever the new version of Satcic for Utrecht and for following installations. Yeah, let's start. We've got the old principle of object architecture and nature, which I'm not going to explain anymore, but basically now there are three. I've worked with timelines, and there are three pillars, or sort of speak, in the composition, and the composition is built chronologically, so it grows sideways to uh, um, simulate the timeline effect, or yeah, and depending on what you write. So I've implemented more adjectives like good and bad. I'm going to use easy words, but there are more of them. Voilà. So when when negative adjectives are used, the composition grows more dense, and pillars they contract. So everything becomes more condensed. How do you say it? More packed or whatever. When you use good adjectives like positive ones, good. Copy, paste, save. Voilà. Then the composition becomes more light. Good. With this one, it's more obvious. Or isn't it? Ah, yeah. Okay. So then you can see they grow apart, and if the parts, the images, become much smaller, so the image is fresher or whatever. Because many people for the installations, people always tend to use profanity. So I've also included that because I want to process what is being said and what's words that are used. So you have to look at what's given or whatever. So fuck, and there we go. Then the lines become red and more obvious. Then we've got the adjectives that say something about a position. Above. Voilà. You've noticed the circle is going to change, but that's I don't have any more time, so this is how it is. When you the idea of the adjectives that say something about position is literally they have an effect that simulates position. So when you have above, and you run it, and it takes time to process it. Voilà. So when you use perspective, words that say something about position, the concentric circles or whatever, or the vector shape in the back changes the perspective to the idea is that when you in the first very first Satcic version I included motion and or a category that implies position because I wanted to be able to describe a place, and when you're standing somewhere this perspective has an impact on what you see. So that's the idea that I reused here, and yeah, that's it. So what more? Yeah. So in the end, I'm going to just use empty. Every time someone says something, the process records it. So every segment you see adding here is someone saying something. The idea is to, for Utrecht that is, and for coming events or things, because I want to also in the near future do uh, an online constant image, something based on online information being processed constantly, and have like the timeline growing and printing out like certain information bases like Google or whatever. But that's for the future when I have a little bit more time. But when you see like, yeah, the segments, that's one person hitting enter, or that's one tweet being downloaded, of being sent and processed. So at the end you have like an, one image that is built by 14 people, and when the image finishes, like when the line reaches the end, that's when the image is sent to the printer, and the printer prints out a composition based on the content, a visual representation of what all of the content of what those people said. So like when you draw a drawing that's folded into 10 pieces and everybody draws one part, that's the basic idea. So the idea is then to print out all day long for 5 days, print out whatever people say, whatever is being sent, and have like a social summary at the end of the day of, yeah, what happened interaction wise. What more? Yeah, so the because the Twitter is connected, people are also able to contribute when they're not at the event. So it still depends on I will really announce it, or really like send mails and tell everybody about it, but the problem is that it's not yet visual. I need to make people able to visually see what they're doing to the composition, because otherwise you can send tweets and on site things are happening, but when you can't see what's happening, it's not really that interesting. So when I find a solution for that, I'll send around a mail or something. Yeah, okay, that's it for the moment. Voilà, Utrecht, and bye.